Dobar dan svima. Zahvaljujem se Centru za organizaciju ove diskusije i pozivu da budem danas ovdje. Ja ću nastaviti na engleskom, zato što nisam 100% siguran da nastavim na crnogorskom, pa je možda bolje i da bi bio jasan da pričam na engleskom. I want to do today three things. First, be a bit abstract and talk more in general about Open Balkans Initiative versus Berlin Process, because that's the title of our panel. Second, then I want to be very specific about some facts with regard to the two initiatives. And then thirdly, I want to offer a conclusion. I think that both Gordana and Balša eased my life because they've done an excellent outline of key issues. And in particular, these latest interventions by Balša exposed the fallacy and the ridiculousness of discussions about tomatoes. So let me start with general observations. And I'll start by going out of Western Balkans and moving to Europe. And going a bit back into the history, but very shortly, so bear with me because it is important. In public discourse in Europe, there is something that is recognized as German question. So basically, in a nutshell, it is a question about how does the European continent accommodate Germany as a political, military, economic factor of the continent. Because Germany has been struggling, and the world has been struggling to answer this question, 2 world wars were started because of this. After the last World War, the Second World War, Americans, learning from the lessons of the First World War, said we are not going out of Europe. We will remain in Europe. And we will do so by creating NATO. So that was an answer to German question. So to militarily ensure that, number one, no country, not Germany, but any country in Europe will ever again feel threatened by Soviet Union. That was the first answer. The second answer was we will establish the European Union, so that there is also not only military but economical answer to the German question, if you will. And I think very wittingly, the first Secretary General of NATO, Lord Ismay, summed up the purpose of NATO in a sentence which remains historical, that we created NATO to ensure that Soviet Union is out, Americans are in, and Germans are down. Now, why I mention this today in light of today's discussion? There is something that Balša explained very well, that we can call a Serbian question, a Serb question in Western Balkans. That is, how do we accommodate Serbia, politically, military, economically, in this tiny part of Europe, called Western Balkans? Now, the answer to this, which is generally accepted, is that by offering Serbia membership to NATO and offering Serbia membership to the European Union. So this was an answer to the question. Serbia didn't accept this. They started 3 wars, at least 3 wars, 4 potentially. They started 4 wars because they refused the proposed, generally accepted solution to the Serbian question. Now, I'm now moving to being a bit more specific. We cannot have this ridiculous, childish explanations about Open Balkans. This is not about tomatoes, this is not about cucumbers. This is about having extended peace and prosperity in Western Balkans, just like the one that has been created in the European Union. And the path to that is an enlargement process, and the path to that is a Berlin process. Anything that deviates from this has one clear goal, that is to destabilize the region. Now, to be very specific, it is up to those that propose open Balkans to convince us, not other ways around. It is up to them to convince us why they do not accept Berlin process. It is not for us to convince them why should we be in the Open Balkans initiative. It's vice versa. The Berlin process was started in 2014 with exactly the same objectives that today the proponents of Open Balkans are talking about. 4 freedoms, free movement of people, capital, services. So exactly the same objectives. They have chosen to establish a different initiative. It is up to them to explain why they want to be out of the Berlin process. Now, they are at least leaving the, let's say, the interpretations. This might be simply Demush's opinion, so what? But leaving interpretations aside, let's just stop at least 5 key facts that will outline why Berlin process is, for every country of the region, is more beneficial than the Open Balkans. Number 1 is the objective, and I won't dwell on that, it has been said enough. So the Berlin process, clear objective is integration into the EU as a stepping stone, as a bridge to the membership. Second is participants. In the Berlin process, there are 16 participants. So you have 6 countries from the region and 10 from the European Union. Key allies of the Western Balkans. Germany, Austria, Croatia, da. How many participants are in the Open Balkans initiative? It's 3. So why would you expel from the room other 3 countries of the region and 10 allies of the region in the European Union? Whose interest is that? Thirdly, funds.
But if I can play the devil's advocate, as our colleague from North Macedonia said, the doors are open. Why are these countries not interested to enter? At least this is the philosophy on the side of people or countries that have opened the doors.
Surely, clear. The question is not why are they not joining. The question is why are they leaving? Why have they decided that it is not convening, it is not in their interest that European Western allies are in the room? Why do they want to take out of the room leaders of Germany, France, and establish a forum where naturally the biggest country will be Serbia? I'm not even giving any. It will be a fact that Serbia will be the biggest country of the forum. So why would you be part of the forum? I mentioned that simply on the basis of participants and leadership, it is a common sense that you will remain in the forum where your European allies are there, chaired by Germany, instead of being part of the forum where only 3 members are there and practically chaired by Serbia. But let's move now to even a more important practical consideration, and that is funds. Let's be, at the end of the day, very selfish. In the Berlin process, there are 30 billions available to Western Balkan countries for their economic development and approximation with the EU. There is 0 funds in the Open Balkans initiative. So let's be very selfish. Why would you choose to be part of the forum that has 0 funds at its disposal? At the level of institutional structure, it was mentioned in the morning, the Open Balkans suffer from the fact that it has no administrative structure for enforcing its decisions. Berlin process has a very complex institutional structure that does ensure implementation of this decision. And final difference, which is extremely important, it is referee. This region has suffered from a very complex history of disagreements between countries. And one frowned upon rule that we have established in this region is that whatever type of cooperation we do, there will always be an objective, neutral referee as part of our cooperation. That is why the European Union is present at every regional cooperation structure. Because it is accepted that they are neutral referee of the process and an authority, if you will, an authority that we all accept to be subordinated to. What happens when you put the referee out of the room is that you become, to borrow from the recently infamous quote of Borrell, you become part of the jungle. So now it is the strongest in the room who determines what is fair, what is accepted. So no country has any interest to be part of such a forum. Now I want to conclude with one conclusion. We cannot change rules of the game when it comes to regional cooperation. Regional cooperation is extremely sensitive for this part of the world. Rules of the game have been established to treat differences between countries in the region, and these rules of the game have been agreed for decades now and ensured peace for now 20 years. When it comes to regional cooperation, these rules of the game are safe. We cannot change them. Anyone who tries to change these rules of the game and create forums where geopolitical footprint of Western allies is diminished has no good interest in the minds of the region. And this is a final sentence. I believe that anyone who supports Berlin process believes in keeping Russians out, Europeans in, and Serbia down. Anyone who believes differently believes in the Open Balkans initiative.